In this project, we are going to communicate between two microbits. So let's get into the Make Code editor and get on with it. We need a new project. We're going to call this one Love because that's the essential question. And we're going to call it Ask because we need two programs, one for the asker and one for the replier. As always, we're going to give it a basic string and we're just going to call it Ask, just to keep it nice and short. Now, because we need to communicate wirelessly, we need to set a radio group. In this case, you can see that we can choose, if we click on the actual number, we have this bar, and we can go between 0 and 255. Now, that really doesn't matter what group you set. If you want to communicate with another microbit, you have to be in the same radio group. So that's the only meaning that this has. It's very arbitrary. It's at the moment on radio group 1, 2, 3. We can go with that. So let's just leave it on radio group 1, 2, 3. If you're in a class or a room with other people using microbits and doing this, you just want to make sure that your group is different from theirs. Otherwise, your microbits will be trying to communicate with each other and maybe you don't realize. The next thing we want to do is set our program state variable, as we often do. To begin with, we'll just set it to 0, as we usually do, just meaning the program has just been turned on. But also, we do want to make it clear about what's happening in the different program states. So 0 is just going to be waiting. 1 will be question sent. And 2 will be reply received. In the forever loop, we need a logic statement because the microbit needs to know what's happening right now. We'll get the comparison block and put our variable in there. If the program state is 0, which means it's waiting, then we can show the string ask ask the question. We're going to assume that we know what's happening here. It's difficult. If we put too much text on, then we just have to sit and stare at the microbit for ages as it tries to show this whole sentence or something. So here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 characters which are going to go across the screen and then repeat. So if we get button A, and again we need to get this logic statement, we can copy it from here, put that. If the program state is waiting, then we don't want to send that string. We want to send the question. And to do that, we need to go into radio, send string, love me, because we're keeping it pretty short. So at this point, we're pretty set up. We need to get the other program ready. So I'm going to press the microbit logo at the top left, and it will take me back out here, and I'm going to start a new project called Love Reply. And we're going to do a similar thing here. It's going to be called Reply, and then we're going to set the radio group. Do you remember the radio group number? 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to set a program state for this microbit. This one is, if we have a comment, we're just going to say 0 is waiting and 1 is received. And then in the forever loop, we need to just do the good old logic check. So we pull out the comparison, the if statement with the comparison. We pull out program state. Now in this case, it's just waiting. So just to show that it's waiting and it's doing something, I'm going to pull out this show icon. And I'm going to choose down here, there's a little box. And then I'll do that again and show the bigger box. And so what's going to happen here is if the microbit is just waiting, it's going to show the small box, the big box, the small box, the big box, and it'll just keep on doing that. The microbit now is waiting to receive the message. And to do that, we need to go back into radio, and just like we had other input methods, like button A press, button B press, we have this on radio received, and this is received number, which is not what we want. We want this received string. We're then going to immediately tell the microbit to not do anything else just for now, we will set the program state to 1 because the string has been received. We want to save that message, and so we're going to make a new variable. I'm going to go message, and we're going to set message to whatever that string is that was received. Right now, if we go back into the forever loop, the program state is no longer 0. The program state is 1. And so I press this plus. So what do we want the user to see? We want them to press A if they do love you and B if they don't. To do that, we need to go on show string. And you can do this in maybe different ways, but I'm going to put a left angled bracket and then A and another left angled bracket. Oh, I mean Y for yes. And then I'm just going to put another show string in, and I'm going to put a right angled bracket and an N and another right angle bracket for no. At the moment, there's nothing happens if you press button A or button B. So we need to get those inputs out on button A. If you press button A, then it will send a reply. The first thing we need to do is check that we have received the question. And if we've received the question, then this program state should be equal to 1. Now, if you press A, that corresponds to yes. So in that case, we need to go into radio, send string, and we're just going to send a capital Y. And then when that's finished, we need to set the program state back to 0 because it's waiting again. We need to do almost exactly the same thing with button B. And so we can just select button A, right click that block, duplicate, move it across to the side, change the A to a B, and then change the string that it's going to send to an N, because like here in the program, the N corresponds to button B, which is on the right hand side of the microbit. Just like button A is on the left hand side, button B is on the right hand side. Right, and then that's basically that. Let's go back to the other program. So now we have to deal with what happens when we receive the answer of yes or no. And to do that, we need to go into radio, on radio received string. Now, because this is quite a simple program and there's only one thing that we're receiving, the first thing we can do is set the program state to reply received, which is 2, as you can see here. The next thing we can do is we can check what that reply actually is. If we go into the logic block and we can get the comparison, we can say if the received string is equal to... Oh, I used the wrong block here. You do have to be a bit careful here. Look, if you go into logic, you can choose a comparison for numbers, or you can choose a comparison for strings. And we know that because here it just says 0, and here we've got the 2 quotation marks. We needed this one. So let's grab that, pull this out. That's the wrong comparison, even though the blocks look pretty similar. Let's put that in there. Radio received string in there. Get rid of that. And if the string that we received was yes, then we can just show a heart. Now, there's only 2 options. It's either yes or it's no. And so if the string that is received was not yes, we can say else. This is if it's yes, show a heart. Else, well, we can just duplicate that and show a cross. After we've seen that, that's it. So the program can start again. However, it'll show that in just like half a second. So I think we want to make this last a little bit longer. And to do this, we can use a loop. In our case, we could just repeat so many times. So I'll just do that. I'll pull out this loop and I'll put it in this received string. And I'm going to show that icon 4 times, which will take about just more than a second. I think 2 seconds maybe. I can do the same thing. for the icon down here. When that has finished, we can then set the program state to 0. And that will reset the program so that it's now waiting. In the forever loop, it will ask you if you want to ask the question. So this should all be fine. Oh, let's test it and see how it works. Okay. I'll put ask on here. This is the yellow micro bit. Download the file. It's flashing. There you can see ask. It says ask Q. Okay. I'll just unplug that for a moment. Get the red micro bit and stick the reply program on that one. Press the micro bit logo, go into the reply program, download as file. The reply program is downloading. I'm going to plug in the yellow micro bit. Okay, so it did say reply, but it's waiting now. If you remember, we made the reply micro bit do this box thing to show that it was waiting. And here's the other micro bit. This says ask. So to ask a question, we're going to press A. And now you can see over here, it said yes or no is that way. So this button on this side for yes, or this button on this side for no. Well, let's say yes. And then we just wait for a moment. And there you can see it showing the heart. And now it's going back. So that was it. So we got it to repeat that icon 4 times, and you can see that wasn't very long. But there you go. In the next project, we'll be making a roulette game, and the code that we'll be focusing on there is creating functions to make our code more readable.